Hello, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Public Comment, a Pine Lake podcast. Do you ever feel like you just don't know what's going on with the city? Maybe you've tried going to the city council meeting, but you're bored out of your skull, or you find out about an event the day after it happens. Well, this podcast is meant to solve those woes. I'm going to break down those 4-hour snooze fest city council meetings into a short summary with the most important stuff that impacts you. I'll also be featuring interviews with important folks in Pine Lake that I think you should hear from. Plus, I'll highlight all the other goings-on of Pine Lake so you don't miss a thing. So, let's get started. I'm your host, Courtney Wasserberger, and this is Public Comment. On Tuesday, July 14th, we had a jam-packed city council meeting. This was a working session, so no votes were made, but you can see the full meeting on the city's YouTube page. But then why would you be listening to this podcast? Anyways, to summarize, the city council had a visit from the DeKalb CEO to present funding for Poplar Park. We heard about a maintenance schedule and capital improvement plan from Mr. Kendrick. City Manager Hawthorne gave the council recommendations on financial policies and a downtown development authority. There was a lively discussion on the city council meeting start times, and finally, we talked in depth about the plain MOU. But before we get into all of that, I should note a few major things going on with the city that impact the decision-making abilities of the council. It's been a year defined by high turnover for the staff and leadership. So here is where we're at right now. With the mayor resigning back in March, we will have an election to fill that position in November. Jeff Goldberg has announced his intention to run for mayor. In order to run for mayor, Jeff will have to step down from his city council seat, which means that we will be electing both a mayor and a city council member in November. Currently, no one is running for city council, and only Jeff has announced his intent to run for mayor. So if you're up to the task, I encourage you to run for mayor or city council. The last day to put in your candidacy is July 31st. So if you're interested, email Ned Dagenhard, our city clerk, or visit him down at City Hall. On the staff side, City Manager Hawthorne is ending his contract at the end of the year, and a search committee is looking for his replacement. Our Public Works Director, Mr. Kendrick, has stepped down from his full-time role to a part-time contractor role. And finally, our city attorney recently resigned. When asked for comment as to the reason for his resignation, the city did not respond, although we had a very tense encounter with the city manager at the June 30th city council meeting, where the city attorney left very abruptly. The city attorney's resignation is proving to cause some confusion around what the council can and cannot do. Mr. Hawthorne is looking for a replacement, which we will hopefully have in the next month, but stay tuned on that. Okay, so with that, on to the meat of the meeting. So we'll start with the DeKalb CEO. Lorraine Cochran-Johnson came to the meeting to make good on funds promised to the city 4 years ago to fix up Poplar Park. Former Mayor Melanie Hammett, along with former City Council members Jean Bordeaux and Augusta Woods, were also there to see their work finally come to fruition. Former Mayor Hammett gave us an update on where we're at with those Poplar Park plans, and she is on the task force to establish the park. Hoping to get a lot more information on that very soon. Next up on the docket was maintenance. Mr. Kendrick reviewed the regular maintenance schedule. This is something that residents have been asking for, so I know a lot of you will be interested. It sounds like he and Chief Green direct the work orders and plan seasonal work as it comes up. You can see the schedule in the agenda packet materials from the July 14th council meeting on the city website. Mr. Kendrick also spent some time reviewing the capital improvement plan. It's a lot of budget talk here around what we planned for in 2025 versus what was actually spent and what they're asking for in the coming year. He promised a spreadsheet with a breakdown of that information to the council, and I have requested it from them, but I have not received it yet. I will keep you informed. Mr. Kendrick also talked about the primrose removal project. You've probably noticed that primrose growing along the perimeter of the lake. He said that he got quotes from 3 different companies to remove that primrose. One was too expensive, although he did not mention the cost. one declined to give a quote, and one wanted us to use an herbicide, which is a no go for Pine Lake. Mr. Kendrick has indicated that mechanical removal is how the primrose will be handled. Finally, Mr. Kendrick informed the council that they paused all wetland projects outside of maintenance back in February because the council told him that plans needed to be presented in a more formal manner. It is unclear what the next steps are to restart those projects, but that was stated at the meeting. Next up, we've got City Manager Hawthorne, who talked through some best practices around financial policies and walked the council through what it would take for a downtown development authority. Nothing major here, just a lot of presenting of information, and it does seem like the city council is interested in restarting that downtown development authority. So let's get into the meeting start time. This probably has the most impact on you guys. The city council has received some requests for a later start time. Currently, the city council meeting starts at 6 p.m. and the city council is considering starting the meetings at 6:30, so it's a 30-minute later start time. I do want to note that in past years, the city council meeting has started as late as 7 p.m. So, council members Deb Hall and Thomas Torrent expressed support for the later start time, citing that many guests can't make it on time. Other city councils start as late as 7 p.m., and they expect a higher resident turnout with a later start time. Councilmember Stephanie Kohler noted that the 30-minute later start time may lead to more overtime for the police officer that is needed to be on duty for the meeting. And Councilmember Jane Lauer expressed concerns for the staff having to stay a little bit later. The city staff has confirmed that they will do whatever is needed and whatever the city council members decide. But City Clerk Ned Dagenhard pointed out that there have been many well attended meetings that started at 6 p.m. and that the residents are more likely to come out for the content of the meeting, not necessarily the start time. Additionally, because the city attorney resigned, we're not sure if we can legally make that change until the next attorney starts, because the start time is written into our city charter, so we need an ordinance to make that change. Overall, the city and the staff are split on whether to try the later start time. So I want to hear from you guys. Comment or email me if the city council meeting started at 6:30. Would you attend or would you still skip it? All right. And then the last thing that was on the agenda at that meeting was the plain MOU. This is something that's been in progress for a couple of months now. No major update on it, and I would like to cover it more in depth in a future episode when we have more information. So that wraps up my coverage of the city council meeting on the week of July 13th. Next up, we have an interview with a city council member who intends to run for mayor. I'm happy to be joined by two friends for this special interview, but in future episodes, it'll just be me interviewing. Hey, our first guest is Jeff Goldberg. Jeff has been a resident for Pine Lake for 30 years and has been on the city council for over 2 years. He recently shared his intent to run for mayor, so we thought we should talk to him. Tim, do you want to start us off with a great question?
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. So, Jeff, if you are elected, what will be your main focus as mayor of Pine Lake?
Well, just to clarify, it's fulfilling the last year and 2 months of the Mayor Hall's term. So it's not a full 4 year term. After that year and 2 months is done, that we will have to have an election for a full term. Um, so what I hope to do, one is we've had some challenges since Mayor Hall has resigned, and just really focusing on how do we keep making forward progress? How do we steady the ship? How do we continue building and growing? And that involves, for me, a really important thing is our public trust with our residents. I
Hmm.
feel like that's been damaged. And just working hard to really increase our communication and transparency with our residents to get more information out so people understand the challenges we're facing, the implications of the decisions being made, to give input on those decisions, and just keep trying to make the next right decision.
Yeah, I think that you kind of touched on a really important part here is that there has been a lot of turnover with city staff and leadership changes over the last year. So, if you're elected, one of your very first responsibilities is hiring a new city manager. So, how would you approach that challenge?
Well, actually, that process has already started.
Mhm.
We are conducting a search right now. We actually have had meetings with the consulting group that we hired, Sumter Consulting, Warren Humacher, I believe is how you say his name. We have interviews that have started yesterday with the members of council, as well as with 5 residents that the council has asked to join us to give us a representative of a city residents' input onto what they're hoping a city manager needs. Process is already starting, whether um, how far along we'll go. Ideally, it happens sooner than later, but I think part of the process is also being patient for the right person. We need someone who really fits us and understands Pine Lake. We don't need to feel the pressure of making a decision to fill the void. If we are patient, I think we will have a better fit. We've learned from the 3 previous city managers, and each brought some good qualities to our city, but also there were some things that we noticed we wanted more of.
Hey, well, another question is if there are deep divisions within the way the council and city staff operate and communicate, whether now or in the future, do you think there's some form of mediation that's appropriate? You know, some sort of kind of intergovernmental therapy if their disagreements get to a difficult point, like somebody can come in and help mediate those conversations?
Well, I feel like in many ways I'm sort of doing that now. Part of I see what my role is. I've got to work closely with our city staff. And one of the skills I think that's needed for whoever the mayor is someone who could work with people who you agree with and like, and people who you don't agree with and don't like. That's very important attribute of being. And then I think we've kind of navigated that the last 4.5 months. Kevin, to answer your question, let me go back. In the past, we have had consultants from the Georgia Municipal Association come in and work with us in our retreats, where they are able to facilitate conversations to help us get to a better place of understanding and communication. But that is also, I think, part of the role of whoever is in the mayor capacity to help also navigate that process.
If I can, I had another question as well. So in your 2+ years that you've been a council member, Jeff, what have been some or one of your most positive moments or issues that you've worked with on council?
Oh gosh. Well, there's a couple. One is after a short period of time being on council, I took over the responsibility of writing the news blast that went out to residents, thinking that I wanted it to be more than just bullet points and more not just information about the council, but other information that may be of use to residents, and took a lot of time to really go through researching information, whether it was here's a link to where to call for a street light that's out on your block, where to go for homestead exemptions on the DeKalb County page, and give useful information. And at a certain point, that got handed back to our city staff, which it really should be as a city administrative function. But I felt that really started opening up more flow of information. And what you're doing now with this podcast is just really growing and continuing that information channel. I think the other thing from a sort of like a policy administrative kind of thing, it's for about a year, I researched property assessments on our commercial properties, primarily apartments in Pine Lake, and learning that many of them were highly undervalued and had not been reassessed in over 8 years. We drafted a letter that got sent to the county appraisers department and had them come and talk to us in a council meeting about our commercial assessments. And I think the result is this year our commercial assessment went up by 20%.
Wow.
Which, as we all know, any place we could get some additional tax relief for homeowners, because what that also allowed for was some of our residential digest went down by, I think, 8%. So I was just really alarmed that down the block from me, I saw an apartment building for sale for $550,000. I looked it up and saw that it was appraised at 350.
Yeah.
Hmm.
An issue with that.
Mhm.
So I feel really that we at least pushed that along. And I'm not saying that because of what I did, the assessments changed, but it certainly brought it to their attention.
Amazing. Well, one last question here for you. The DeKalb CEO, when she visited us at the last city council meeting, said, "Hey, give me a call if you need anything." So, what can we give her a call about?
Well, I just sent her an email 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Hey, you said we should ask for things. Here's something. And
Yeah.
it was looking at, and what I loved is she talked about something I hadn't even thought about is they said, she said, we have 16, 17 grant writers
Mm.
and ask us for help. And I'm like, I had never even thought of that. And one is, it was just such a proud moment that Madam CEO was there. And for those who didn't see it either in person or in a recording, she must have apologized at least 2 to 3 times for the challenge of getting that funding to us, and that brought in, I think it was $73,000, which was big. So what I asked her for was, by the way, if we're really starting to look at how do we develop our commercial district, we need to look at our zoning up there and see that it is ready for when things start happening. And that's a comprehensive overview of our zoning. And I said, we need some help with that because that's really calling in and hiring a professional to do that. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that something will happen. And what she reminded us, if you don't ask, you don't get a yes or you don't get a no, you just get nothing. So
A quick follow up to that zoning thing. What is it that our zoning lacks up there?
that's what I'm not really sure about. That's why we need that comprehensive look at it, because
All
we
right.
make sure that when a developer or a business owner sees a lot and they want to come in and build it, is everything ready for them to do it right then versus us going, oh, we need to make some changes to fix this to
Hmm.
make sure you can. My understanding is there's some real restrictions on what can and can't be done up on Rockbridge. And that's worth looking at and seeing if what was decided maybe 10, 15 years ago still fits us now.
Hmm.
And then if there's anything from I know very little about zoning. I read it. It's very complex and we need a professional to really look at it.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jeff. It was really,
Yeah. Thanks,
really
Jeff.
cool to chat with you. Um, yeah, you will. Any last message to the voters?
I think um, the, one of the key reasons I moved to Pine Lake is because I felt I was working for the city of Decatur, running an AmeriCorps program, and I needed a little bit of separation from my community in terms of where I worked and where I lived. And I had known Pine Lake for since the 80s, and I said I want to live somewhere where my voice can have a direct impact on the quality of my life. And I think that's one of the sort of double-edged swords of Pine Lake is your voice can matter, but we also need to think about how we use that voice.
Hmm.
Um, and I just want to honestly, I'm old school. I want to be of service. That's a lot of what my life and work has been is doing or leading volunteer things, and I think it matters to give back. And I've lived here a long time. I've done a lot of what different committees and never thought I'd be in this position right now, but here I am, and I feel like I have something to offer.
My next segment is about upcoming events and shoutouts that I'd like to make to local businesses. So we've got two really cool events coming up this week. The annual gala fundraiser for Pride Lake is happening on July 25th. So it's going to be this really fun drag bingo party. So highly recommend you get your tickets now. You can get those at pridelake.org/gala, Gayla. And then Pride Lake will happen in September. Very exciting. The other big thing going on this coming week is urban forester Dave Long with the Georgia Forestry Commission is going to give us a State of the Wetland Forest presentation on Thursday, July 30th at 6 p.m. at the Pine Lake Beach House. No need to reserve tickets or anything. Just show up at the beach house Thursday, July 30th at 6 p.m. and hear what is going on with our wetlands. As far as shoutouts go this week, I had a really good experience with Comfort Heating and Air recently. They replaced my water heater without an issue. Super communicative, fair pricing, and we love to support those Pine Lake businesses when we can. So if you have any heating and air issues or need a new water heater, give them a call. That is it for my inaugural episode of Public Comment. Thank you for listening, and apologies for how not polished this is yet. But I'd love to hear your feedback and for you to subscribe. I'm going to get better each and every time. And I'm going to be releasing a new episode every 2 weeks covering the city council meetings. If there are no city council meetings, I'm still going to have something to say. So please stay tuned, subscribe, and give me feedback. Thank you.